Welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back with some Redwall today, which I'm super excited about. Before we get started, first of all, excuse me if I have a little bit of a tickly cough, but please check out all the links that are coming up in the chat now. It includes our Discord, YouTube merch, you name it, that is where you'll find it. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Mage Hand Press, and also our new sponsor now, who is the Deck of Many. So please go check them out. They do some really awesome, like, animated spell cards that move as you card them. They're really cool. Please go check them out. Otherwise, I'm gonna hand this straight over to the lovely Rachel. So, oh hi, Rachel.
Oh hi, and welcome to Chapter 6 of Heroes of Redwall, everyone. Wonderful to be back. Had a bit of a break last week. Everyone wasn't feeling 100%, and sometimes it's good just to take a step back and come back feeling fresher. So here we are, and I think it would be prudent to go through my wonderful players, because on this joyous occasion we have everyone here, and it's just going to be so lovely to have the whole group, because I love the dynamic of these characters so much. So yeah, starting with, let's go anti-clockwise. Starting with Angelique, Geek Girl Bookworm. Tell us who you are and who you are playing today.
Hello, I am Angelique, Geek Girl Bookworm. You can find me everywhere online under that name. I am playing Lady Anastasia Tiddlywinkle. Definitely a noble. No, she's not. She is now. Yeah, I remember. I'm a true noble born, not born, but I'm definitely posh now for realsies.
So. Nobles aren't born, they're made.
Exactly. Tally ho, and all that jazz.
Fantastic. Next around the table, we have the wonderful D-Sword 16. The same for you.
Hi everyone, I am Derek Sword. You can find me on Twitter at dsword16. I am playing, oh God, what am I playing? Asher, the Badger of Salamandastron. Actually, that's not his full name. His full name is Lord Ashville Silverstripe, and he has numerous other titles. Some of I've actually given him in the time because titles are just fun. Yeah, I'm really excited to have everybody back this week to have a full session. Since session 1, it's incredible. So yeah, let's get up to some anthropomorphic hijinks.
Exciting. All right. Next round, everyone's favorite mole friend. This is my real name. Wonderful Gruber. Please introduce yourself for us, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heavenly. That is my real name on Twitter, and I am playing Gruber, who originally was going to be like a really afraidy mole, and then somehow transformed into Sylvester Stallone in Rambo. So, a lot of changes, big changes happening for Gruber.
Oh dear, I love Gruber. But next up is the always wonderful Alice, playing an equally wonderful, wholesome character. Tell us a little bit about them.
Oh, hi, I'm Alice, or White Rabbit Pick on Twitter. That's where you can find me. I play Holt Bartuk, who is a top-heavy, probably slightly too large otter who is not aware of his own size and a little bit accident prone, definitely not stealthy, even though he thinks he is. Loves his food, and he's just happy that everyone is here, alive. He's having a pretty good time until his bag was broken into last week. He was fine with the army, he was fine with the enemy, but then when this bat attacked his bag, I think he had a little bit of a breakdown.
Fantastic. And lastly, myself, I'm Rachel. I can be found by looking for Talanir on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all those lovely places. And I am the GM or recorder for, that's what I'm calling the GM for a Redwall game. Anyone familiar with the series can probably work out why. And this series uses the A Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game rules, but kind of reskinned for this setting. Works quite well for that low fantasy vibe. So without further ado, I believe D-Sword 16 was going to do a very quick recap of last session, since we kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Waving goodbye to Salamandastron, our heroes began their way towards Mossflower Wood, hoping to somehow reach Redwall. They're guided by a map which included a mysterious poem and Gruber's sensitive snout. The group disembarked with high hopes. However, the dark woods held many twists and turns, and with an unexpected storm, the heroes' optimism, along with their trail, was dampened and lost. Nevertheless, hope seemed to shine as the group found shelter in a ruin. But they weren't alone. A swarm of dark-winged rooks attacked from above. With claws, Gruber almost got carried off. They lost half their rations. The party was able to fight and run for their lives, but again, rations not so much intact. With their food cut in half and their spirits thoroughly drowned, the heroes are now risking everything to seek allies in unlikely places.
Fantastic, thank you so much. All right. So the four of you had just stepped into this clearing unstealthily, as many of your entrances often turn out to be. I do believe, however, that Gruber is currently hidden, Rambo-esque, in the undergrowth. However, Holt and Asher, who stepped forwards and are easily the most noticeable out of your party, you are greeted with a small but very vicious-looking creature as your sudden appearance prompted the shrew on watch to alert the rest of the camping Gwosim shrews. the individual who has stepped up in front of you introduced himself as the Logolog of the Guosim Shrews, which stands for the Guerrilla Union of Shrews in Mossflower. And looks you up and down. You see that one paw is on the hilt of a very sharp looking rapier, which these shrews are very small. They are slightly smaller than Lady Anastasia and about the same size as Gruber. Kind of similar looking to Gruber in that they have very tiny, almost unnoticeable ears and long pointed snouts with quite sharp looking teeth. Unlike Gruber, they have these long tails, and all of them wear these red-coloured bandanas tied around their forehead. In fact, it almost looks like they're trying to out-Rambo Gruber at this point. But this big, muscular-looking shrew with his paw on the hilt of the rapier looks up at you with this frown, says, "I'll ask you again. What are you doing in this part of Mossflower? And why are you interrupting our camp?"
Holt sort of moves forward and takes a step, well, quite a big step, and he's just like, "You all right, mates? We're what are we doing? We're looking for somewhere warm and to get out of the rain. And if you got any food, that's also very much appreciated."
He frowns suspiciously at you. "And what, pray, convinces me that you lot aren't a bunch of fool beasts, eh? Coming to rob us blind in the middle of the night?"
And Holt looks himself up and down. He's like, "Oh no, I ain't no thief. In fact, I'm pretty bad at it. If I had to try. We were told that you're the sort of, beast to come and look for by the lady, the badger lady up at the mountain, Salamander Strong."
Make a persuasion check, but I'm gonna give you the equivalent of advantage. You get an extra bonus die to add to the roll.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Ooh, very good. Okay, so that's 15. He barks with laughter, and he's got a very deep voice for such a tiny creature. He says, "On the behest of the Lady of Salamanderstron, hey? Well, now it really depends what you're looking for, Riverdog. If you're looking for someone to wash your socks, I'd say you're in the wrong place. But if you're looking for someone to follow you into a fray, we're your shrews.
I mean...
Come, you're going to catch your death out there." And he motions for you to follow him to where this big fire pit has been erected underneath this awning to keep the rain off of it.
He looks down at his feet and sort of literally just checking to see if he is wearing socks. But he does start to motion forward, looking to the others like, I mean, they seem all right.
And as you're kind of looking about, you can see that the rest of the shrews have woken up. Some of them are looking a bit grumpy that they've been roused from slumber. Some of them are quite excited that there are new faces, especially a badger. Some of them look more suspicious and untrustworthy and untrusting of you. But all of them are more or less awake and kind of groggily kind of coming to and looking around for some food or something.
I don't recall. I'm pretty sure I was hidden.
Yeah, they haven't spotted you yet, Gruber. You're kind of in the undergrowth, just kind of to the side of where your companions are.
Right.
Yeah, Holt can't see Gruber at all. Like, he's almost looking around as if he is looking for Gruber, but tries to be, aloof. But he starts sort of walking through this, I guess, like, team of shrews, just sort of like nodding his head, being very, very aware of where his tail is the entire time, but will go and duck underneath the awning, and he sort of looks at it, he's like, we got a lord and a lady here as well, so you know, I was just looking for you know, some proper accommodation. I'm the bag carrier, you see.
At this time, there is just a rumble of laughter throughout all of the shrews, as Logolog kind of looks up at you and gives you like this very, very strong kind of hearty slap on the back for such a small critter. Says, I'm afraid out here in Mossflower, there's not much in the way of lords or ladies. It's those who can survive in the woods, those that can look after themselves. You look like you could take care of yourself, although perhaps the rain has dampened you a little bit. That's trying to warm you up. Someone, you, and he points at a slightly smaller shrew. Put some stew on. The rest of you don't need to be up. Get back to sleep. We'll be needing full strength tomorrow for the push to the south. And the screws kind of scurry to carry out his orders. It definitely seems like this individual has the authority here. And he waves to the rest of your companions, saying, the rest of you better get over here as well. You don't want to stay out in that rain, and I am offering you my hospitality. It would be incredibly rude to refuse it.
Alice and Holt coughs, as Holt is got a little bit too cold as well, and he can't help but like beam a little. He stands up a little straighter when he hears about the stew, and looks back to Lady Anastasia and is like, they've got stew.
I heard, yes. It's cold and wet out here, and stew would be much appreciated for everyone, I'm sure. Yeah, even though we can't see at the moment.
And Holt's sort of like wandering over towards the stew pot. Just not saying anything, but you know, that sort of slowly edge closer to the pot. It's like,
it's not really warm enough to be served yet. You can see it was probably stew that was brewed the previous afternoon and leftovers basically, but they put it back over the fire pit on this stand and it's starting to heat up, and it smells like a pretty potent kind of woodland stew mix. In fact, you think there might even be a dash of hot root in there. The shrews certainly seem like quite flavoursome individuals.
Yeah, like his nose is twitching a little bit, but otherwise he sort of understands he needs to wait patiently.
And it takes like a little while, but the stew is coming along. And another shrew kind of comes by and holds out this earthenware pitcher to the rest of you. Says, I know it's very wet out, but if you're thirsty, we've got river rhubarb cordial. Not a huge amount left. We're due a resupply soon. You're very tall for a river dog. We haven't seen your kind for a little while around here.
I mean, and I'm a little bit taller maybe than most, but and he sort of pauses. Is that like a problem? Or...
No.
Oh.
We were just admiring the size of your muscles. If a shrew could get as swole as that, then we'd be a force to be reckoned with, more so than we already are.
And he's like clasping his paws, like, oh. And like does that little like look down at his arms. And he's like, yeah, no, I guess that is a good thing. Not, you know. And he's just like holding his paws in his hands, like trying to. He doesn't really know what to do with himself.
So this small shrew kind of pours you like a flask of cordial and then kind of claps you on the, probably not the back, probably like it's more like on like the bottom of your elbow. It kind of jumps a little bit to reach. Well, a friend of the river is a friend of the Gyotin, my chum, I suppose. And kind of carries on to offer cordial to Anastasia. Oh. And if you try it, it's very pungent. It's not the kind of delicate flavor of maybe some of the things you tried back at Salamanderstrom. It's strong, it's homebrewed, and it's almost got this slight kind of kick to it that maybe they might have added some ginger root or something. But it certainly starts to help warm you up as you stand by the fire pit.
The nose twitch. Ooh.
Yeah, the whiskers are just going crazy. The little shrew kind of looks back and says, "Oh yeah, it's a very old ghost sim recipe actually. We guard it very fiercely, but it's very good at warming you up on a cold night."
I can imagine it. Whew, I feel warm already. Have you tried any of this, Holt?
And Holt just sort of looks up, like from where it's probably around his muzzle, like,
You realise there must have been some beetroot in there because Holt's kind of lower face has been kind of dyed purple.
It's a good look for you.
What is?
Just this whole area, just it's lovely.
Oh, thank you. It's sort of like.
How about Gruber? Gruber, you've seen your companions have been served with food and drink, and it's very squishy and quite muddy down where you're kind of hidden. What would Gruber like to do?
I would like to. I feel like if I come out now, it'll be kind of freaky. Also, I'm hungry and cold. I'm gonna move along. How close can I get to Holt without them seeing me?
So you can try and sneak past the back of some of these lean-to style tents, but the rest of the group are more or less in the middle of this clearing around the fire pit.
Okay. I'm gonna try and sneak. Yeah, I'm gonna try and sneak a little closer to Holt.
Okay.
So I can get attention. So I'll try and sneak.
Stealth check.
Yeah. I have a survival specialty of blend in. Can I use that?
Yeah, sure. If you want to roll survival instead.
Okay. And I just have to remember how to do that.
Okay. So how many points in your specialty did you have?
1, and I have a 5 in survival.
So basically, you would replace the one with the 6, bringing your total for 20, which is still incredibly good. None of the shrews seem to notice you. It seems like quite a few of them have just kind of gone back to sleep, and the ones that are up are very much focused on the rest of your party members. So you're pretty much able to sneak up about a couple of feet from Holt, where there's just kind of the gap between the tent you're hiding behind and the kind of open awning where the rest of them are standing underneath.
Okay. Holt.
Like,
Holt.
I sort of look down briefly where I've got this sort of cup in my hand. I'm assuming it's a very tiny cup.
Yeah, it's very small in your paws. It's more like a shot glass.
And so it sort of holds it, and it's just like, "Oh, you all right, mate?"
Holt, I don't want to come out and spook them because our alliance here seems very tentative. It is freshly forged, and I would hate to ruin that. But I am very hungry and my feet are cold.
Oh, well, do you want some of this? And he sort of passes down this cup into like this effectively long grass.
Will you tell them that you have a friend and then come out and get me?
Yeah, of course I can, mate. Excuse me, like at least sort of like flapping his paw like in the direction of one of the shrews.
You see the seeming leader kind of look over where he's been talking to a slightly smaller shrew. Says, "Is something the matter there, River Dog?"
Let me introduce you to one of my other friends. You might not have seen him because he's real tiny like you are. And
you see him kind of frown.
Is that? Yeah, I didn't mean no offense by it. I meant that this is Gruber, and just sort of like points out.
Half a dozen shrew snouts turn to look at you, Gruber.
Hope that's not entirely what I had in plan, because now I have snuck into the center of their base camp. But
well, no, because he's all good. You just didn't see him because he's like master of stealth, but sometimes without even meaning it.
You hear a couple of the shrews kind of go, "Cool, blimey, that mole's like a walking shadow," and then like a few kind of comments of reverence directed your way. The Logolog kind of strides up to you with his hands on his hips and says, "Any little fella capable of sneaking right into the center of a Grosim camp is, well, worth a jug of cordial in my book. Welcome to our little establishment."
Thank you. May I please have some soup now?
Oh, of course, there should be plenty to share around. And he also gives you another one of these kind of slaps on the back playfully and laughs and heads back to the fire pit. Now, the lot of you mentioned the lady is Salamanderstra. Now, I haven't had any dealings with her for many a season. However, I would be mighty curious for you to regale me of how you've come by our little soggy troop in the forest.
And Holt sort of does that towards Asher. That sort of like, ta-da!
Oh, absolutely. I do apologize for being so silent for so long. You might say I've had connection issues. No, absolutely. You see, well, it's a bit of a long story. We woke up on a beach with no memories. We've since regained those memories. Some of them, not all of them. Turns out that, I am a prince of Salamandrestron. The lady is my mother. I am Lord Ashville Silverstripe. I am protector of Redwall and High Prince of the Long Patrol. I'm sorry. And absolutely, we are trying to get back to Redwall as our ultimate goal. We were following a map. It had a poem on it. We should have paid more attention to the poem, I think. It rained. There were birds. We lost a lot of our food. And then we saw your campfire and hoped that you might be inviting, and you have been, which is much appreciated. And yeah, that's how we seem to find ourselves here. But you might even find it interesting. We had heard of you before. We heard that you might be friendly towards folk of our kind.
He thinks for a moment and says, "Well, your first mistake was you should never trust poetry. It can lead you in all sorts of strange directions. We of the Grosim don't put any stock in that kind of literature nonsense. Now, if you're looking for friends, I'm pretty sure we can oblige there. We have a bit of a pressing commitment. However, if you need help temporarily, we will be more than happy to give you somewhere to stay at our camp. And you say you lost some food. We might be able to bolster your supplies a little. Not gonna lie, you're quite large beasties, at least two of yous. So we might not be able to cover you for that long, as, you know, we've got our own rations running a little low. But what confuses me, though, is if you're the protector of Redwall, and quite a mighty fine position that sounds like too. I know Redwall vaguely, went there many seasons ago when I was way before I became Logolog. Lovely place, lovely place. If you're a protector of Redwall, why did you leave?
Excellent question, and I, to that point, have questions for you as well about your prior commitments, but I'll answer your question first. We left, as I understand it, under some duress. As I previously mentioned, not all of our memories are what you would call fully intact. I believe that we were taken from Redwall in attempts to defend it, and honestly, our request for friendship would be in an attempt to defend it once again, especially if you have fond memories of it. There's a danger being posed to Redwall, we believe. Have you ever heard of a nasty-looking fox? Kind of pieces falling off of Mindal Wargveer. Does that ring any bells?
Logolog shakes his head, but says, now, I ain't heard of any fox, but my colleagues and I were heading downstream, southways. Our families have a summer, you could say holiday spot as such. There's a place we make a more permanent camp at different times of the year. And our families be staying a little way south. And we recently caught word of a warbeast horde of sorts that was heading up from that away. So really at the moment we're trying to make our way south as fast as possible to get to our people before they do, and whisk them away north, where we might be a little bit safer. Now, this sounds a lot to me like whatever you're worried about, heading northwards to Redwall, if I'm not mistaken.
It does seem to be mighty similar. I think we are talking about the same thing, yes.
I see. Well, it's, good to back up our information anyway.
What about Empress Dagger Eyes?
Can't say that name rings a bell either. I don't really know any names of any war crew. I just know that they're there, and I know that they're posing a danger to our partners and little ones. So we're gonna go deal with that, and then we'll also be heading northways again, I suppose. We're not stupid. We like a good old fight, but we're not gonna go and engage a whole war crew on our own.
Quick question. Do you know exactly where Redwall is?
Oh yeah, you just gotta follow the points, and you can all see that there is a fairly slim river that runs through part of this clearing, and in fact the Grosim have camped just a little up the bank from the riverside. And you've also all noticed about a dozen of these hollowed out logs, which seem to serve as boats for these creatures that have been hauled out onto the bank. Oh yeah, matey, we tend to travel using the waterways of Mossflower, and if you follow the rivers, follow up current away from the flow of the river, you need to be traveling for about any kind of ho-hums. By river, it'd be about 2 to 3 days, and then you'll find yourself at a ford. When you get to the ford, obviously you want to take their boats off the river. It gets too shallow around abouts there, and you'll find yourself on a dirt path, and you follow that eastwards, and within half a day's walk you will be at the gates of Redwall.
Holt sort of excitedly looks around at the others. He's just like, we can travel by river. Like, I mean, that's my thing. I can do that. And he's sort of remembering all the running he's done, and he's not actually that great a runner.
So, and look kind of frowns. You're taking word of this threat up to Redwall, yes?
Yeah, we got to warn him.
Well, I've known many good beasts at Redwall. I've known several shrews who have just chosen to settle within those gates. It's a safe place. It's a good place to raise littlings, and I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to those beasts. So I think we would be able to part with, let's say, 2 of our log boats, if that will help you get there any faster. I mean, I have no doubt that you, River Dog, will be able to swim that river with ease, but not so sure about, and please pardon my assumptions, them moly folk don't tend to be the best of swimmers. Not sure about edge pigs. I mean, a badger, you could probably cope. In some places, you could probably walk along the bottom, but
As long as we're in a boat and not swimming, it should be okay.
I don't think I can swim, but I think if I fell like spikes first, I might float. I don't understand if that really works, but like
I wouldn't put it to the
air
test.
caught in my spikes.
Log seems a little bit skeptical of this hypothesis.
Yeah, I don't really understand these sort of sciences. Far too important.
Well, I suggest you give the logboats a go. In the morning, after you've all had some rest, bearing in mind it is now about 9-10 p.m. in the evening, so the evening isn't that late. It seemed like the shrews hadn't been asleep for long, but he continues. Once we wake up in the morning, if you can be up and about by dawn, we can give you a quick rundown on how to use the logboats, after which we're going to have to pack up and head south, and we can leave you to your journey northwards. Stock up your what's left of those satchels you're carrying. Look like they've been through the wars a little bit.
Sad. Like, as he sort of holds up his satchel, there's that massive like tear in it, and he's like, that would be nice. Thank you.
That would be a problem. Yeah, what say you to that?
Sounds great.
That's incredibly generous. Thank you.
Well,
Going on the river.
As the guerrilla union of shrews in Mossflower, 'tis really our duty to look out for our fellow woodlanders, and we can spare a boat or two. We got a whole flotilla of the things back at base camp anyway. Although if you would be able to return them in the future after all this nonsense has died down, we would appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in that case, and he kind of claps and gets to his feet. When you finish with your stew and your cordial, at this point, he kind of barks to a few more of the smaller shrews and orders them to kind of bring over a few bedrolls. If you want to camp here under the main awning, you are more than welcome.
Thank you, friend.
And he just kind of grins at you, kind of does a little salute, and heads back to his tent, which is one of the larger looking kind of tents in the circle. And the four of you are left with your stew by the fire.
Well, that went better than it's gone recently.
And
It almost went too well.
And
I think
Holt
we're
is
good at
like
making friends.
eating, watching Gruber as he sort of like scans here. He's like, well, I mean, they're giving us food and boats.
How do we know the boats don't have holes in them, or that the food isn't poisoned?
Well, if you want, I'll check the boats before we go. I'm pretty good at that. And I'll eat everything first if you want. And he's like tucking into his stew. He's like, I can test everything if you want.
Ash is just like staring at Holt now, just for a couple of minutes.
And he's like, but it means we can get to Redwall, and find out what's actually going on here. Because I don't know about you, I kind of want to know what happened, like proper.
Yes, I would like to know why I was running in a forest. Doesn't seem like something I would do.
No,
Seems like something we all had to do.
Exactly, and I don't like being forced to exercise. I'll tell you that.
Asher, you recall in that vision you had back at Salamanderstrand, and this was part of the bit that only you saw before the rest of your party also was struck by this strange kind of fugue state. You remember when the old mouse at this beautiful redstone kind of fortress, you remember they were asking for volunteers, and you distinctly remember, obviously you were already up there by his side, you were already there, and you distinctly remember seeing a slightly less bedraggled Anastasia stepping forwards with a fierce kind of affirmation.
I think he'll just kind of keep that in his back pocket for now. Like he's already, made a lady of her. I think he knows deep down that she's more honorable, more courageous than she'll ever let on. And that when the chips are down, she's definitely to be counted on. But he'll also just let her complain because it probably makes her feel better.
Holt is just tucking into his food, sort of smiling, sort of over the top, probably, at each of his teammates, because he's just been given hot food, a bed to sleep in, and he's just found out he's going on the river, so he's pretty happy with everything right now.
Yeah, I think Asher's trying to make sure that none of his stuff gets rusty. He's trying, especially since they're going on the river, he's trying to oil his hatchet and his axe and definitely his shield, and maybe even finds like some extra wrappings to like put around the shield.
Oh yeah, so. Like for all their bravado, the shrews are very, very practical little animals, and they have all of the supplies that they might need with them for any eventuality. So they would also have equipment that you could use as well as your own.
So I'm sorry if I missed it. What did they say that their other obligation was?
So what Log told you was that there's essentially a long-term semi-permanent camp further south where the rest of the Guosim stay over summer. And this would be their little ones, this would be their families, the elderly. Okay. Because obviously the main kind of, the more kind of up for a fight bands of the Guosim travel around Mossflower looking for scraps they can get involved with, usually of the righteous kind. But of course they all have families, and often the Guosim travel as one huge kind of fleet of riverboats, but just as often they will usually split so that those who wish to can kind of stay in a more semi-permanent residence. So essentially they were saying that they had to travel south to basically meet up with those who'd stayed behind and make sure they could get them all the way northwise before the horde kind of might cross their path.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, and did anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up or ask before you turn in for the night?
Are any of us injured?
I don't know, are you? I think Gruber took a few slashes in the fight with the rooks.
I believe he did. Gruber, if you have any open wounds, I've gotten a little more practice at treating injuries, if you'd like me to take a look at any of them.
Yes, that would be great. I think at one point I was picked up by a rook and then dropped on my face.
I saw that.
Did happen.
Yes.
And as I say that, you can see that my nose is like a little smushed.
I would like to do my best to patch up Gruber's
roll
wounds.
a medicine check or healing check for me, and let's see what you get. And the amount you heal is dependent on your degrees of success. However, that was a very good roll. So you actually heal 3 points of this kind of HP shock damage. So how much does that heal you up to, Gruber?
I think that actually heals everything. I think I only took 3 damage.
Nice. So you kind of reshape Gruber's nose a bit like kind of clay, kind of press it back into the right place. I guess it's kind of like trying to set a broken nose, but in the case of a mole, it's just it's a lot more kind of sensitive. Very important the nose is on center for an animal that finds its way by smell and feeling around with its nose. So yeah, you can patch Gruber up basically to a full bill of health.
Thank you, Gruber. Your nose looks good as new.
Okay. And if there's nothing else anyone else would like to do before you bed down for the night. You can find your places to sleep. You have still got your camping equipment, and you've also been provided bedrolls by the shrews. So you can bed down under the awning. The rain is still dripping down the outside, and you're not really closed off from the elements, so you still feel the breeze. However, around the embers of the big fire pit, you can kind of keep warm despite that. And there isn't too much of a breeze, it's just this drizzle that's coming down off of the awning and kind of makes the ground a little bit cold. But nonetheless, you all drift off, and maybe you are relieved, maybe you're disappointed, but you have a night of dreamless, deep sleep after your long day's travel and then flight through the woodlands, pursued by rooks. And the next day dawns fairly gently. It's not a bright peal of orange sunlight you're met with, but the kind of pale lilac-ish dapples of light that filter down through the canopy of the trees. Because even though you're in a bit of a clearing, the canopy of mossflower wood is incredibly dense and all knits together like fingers over the top of your heads. But it does seem as if the rain has stopped. It seems as if it's going to be a pleasant day, and you are all met by this slightly more optimistic weather as you each slowly stir to wakefulness.
I think Holt is full starfished whilst he's been sleeping. He's probably felt warm and relaxed for the first time since being soggy, attacked by all this sort of thing. So he's probably stretched right out. And
probably taking up most of that side of the awning. Anyone on that side might well have a paw or a tail in their face.
He does like twitch in the night every now and then as well. So
I was gonna say, for as suspicious as Gruber is, I think I'm also the last to wake up, and I sleep super soundly.
Now, I'm wondering if Gruber like cuddles into Holt because for like 3 days straight, he had gotten so used to just being like carried.
That's what I think. I think that's what I did last session as well. I waited until Holt was sleeping, and then I cuddled up behind him, and so that's definitely what I'm gonna.
Holt doesn't roll over. He'll be fine.
I'm the big spoon.
Yeah.
The ironically big spoon.
Mm-hmm.
How about Anastasia?
I don't think she's used to sleeping on the floor still. This is very strange. She does not like it. I did enjoy those lovely beds that we had at Salamanderstone, and I don't like that I don't have one now. But I did make myself a lovely warm cloak, so at least I was snug and warm in said sleep. And so I imagine I get up and I attempt to be helpful. Don't know how I can do it though, because I don't know what I'm doing. So I probably get in the way more than I help. But I am at least trying, and that is the main best. Yeah.
And you all kind of are stirring, and you see that several shrews are already up. The more industrious amongst them are starting to put down tents and pack away rations or belongings. Log is awake and seems to be down by the riverside, supervising the maintenance on the boats before they set off on their next trip. And once they see you are awake, some of the shrews will come over and offer you some breakfast. It's fairly simple fare. It's mostly kind of this oatmeal porridge with green sap milk with a little smidgen of some kind of sweet, maybe more of this kind of gingery root spice that's just been kind of mixed into it to give it a little bit more morning pep.
Makes my nose tingle again.
Yeah, more twitchy whiskers.
Not sure I like this one, but it's a strange combination you've made there, but that's all I can say about it. Sorry, I tried. It's weird.
Holt's just ladling it down.
Yeah, just going for it. And he probably will, because he genuinely thinks Gruber's fear of that they may have like made holes in the boats, he's sort of finishing quick, and then he's heading straight down to the boats to check them out.
Okay. As you're doing that, how about Gruber and Asher?
I think Asher actually had the same idea as Holt. At least the Gruber's words are kind of echoing a little bit. So he goes to turn, be like, "Oh, Holt, would you mind?" And he sees he's already heading down to the boat. So I think that he's going to walk down there, and not knowing what he's doing, I don't think Asher has any experience with boats. So he'll just kind of kick it with his paw a little bit and goes, "Looks mighty solid to me."
Yeah, and like in the boat, like almost laying down, sort of touching every single surface, trying to work out if there is a hole. I mean, he doesn't think there will be, but he's trying to make Gruber feel comfortable.
All right, make a craft check for me.
Oh God! I swear I'm good at some stuff. I
mean, it's pretty good. Boats look ship-shape. Look pretty watertight. They look well made, and kind of they've been used. They're definitely not new, but they look very well maintained.
Yeah, like Holt sort of calls back to Gruber, and it's just like, it's all good, mate. There's no holes or nothing. It doesn't look like you're gonna be swimming.
I give a very lackluster like thumbs up, but I don't even know if I can. I do jazz hands.
We're good.
And Logolog walks up to you, Holt, and says, right, so I know you river dogs are very adept in the water. I don't know why I'm Australian now. This guy changes his accent every time I say something. But have you ever actually used a logboat?
Well, I normally swim, mate, but it's just a matter of rowing, right?
Well, yeah, it's going to be 2 beasts to 1 boat. I recommend you split up the more heavy members of your troop. No offense, of course. It's just a matter of weight distribution. So yeah, there'll be a pair of oars per boat, and then whoever ain't rowing can be either on lookout or anything else that he's doing. I'm pretty sure there won't be any need for bailing out the boat. They're solidly made. We're very proud of our craftsmanship. Let me think. Well, how about we just do a quick lesson now? We'll do a quick test, see how you fare in them. Are your companions all done with breakfast? You packed up, ready to go?
And like Holt just looks over.
Did they give us rations yet or provisions for
Yes, you do find that your packs, some of them have been kind of sewn up a little bit roughly, the ones that were ripped and slashed, but they have been not filled, but they have bolstered your rations somewhat.
Okay. Well, one thing that I wanted to do just real quick before we... Sorry. I rode my scooter over here this morning and my nose is really sniffly.
Oh, that's okay.
It's really cold outside when you're on a scooter. Is I want to talk to someone about like lore of the area, like anything having to do with their history, the history of the movement, you know.
Yeah, you see, there are a few slightly older shrews in this party. They look very kind of battle worn, but also they've got that they've definitely got that Rambo-ish look to them that they've seen things that you can kind of relate to. And if you approach one of them, she is kind of a bit long in the tooth, a little bit kind of yellowed around the ears, but she smiles at you and says, "Oh, is there something I could do for you, little mole?"
I just wanted to ask you some questions about how long you all have been occupying this area and fighting the good fight.
Well, the whole of Mossflower is our home. This particular bit, well, we're just passing through at the moment. Down south is where we tend to make our more permanent residences. A little bit warmer down there. You have to be on the lookout. If you go any further south, there's a lot of lizards, toads. Don't take kindly to anyone encroaching on their territories. I don't know if you've come across any. Northwise, you want to be careful of. Well, there's more roving packs of bandits from the far north. Sometimes come down a little bit southways towards winter and autumn, where it's a little bit warmer. Also, want to be careful of. There's a rookery a little ways from here. They can be quite aggressive. I
think we may have run into that.
Oh,
one
you
already.
did. Well, I'm very impressed that you got out of that. Yeah, I did wonder why you looked a little bit patched up. Your nose looks better this morning, though. Is there anything else I can help with? Just watch out for bandits mostly. There's a few active groups of them. We try and beat them back throughout the summer. There's different types. There's them that are just in it for the goods and what you're carrying. There's those that are a little bit more out of touch. I have heard of a few tales of vagabonds that have been said to eat other travelers in the area. Never come across any myself. We put up a bit of a defensible looking force when we're all out on the river in our boats, so we don't tend to get bothered that much. But fewer of you, I'd keep an eye on yourselves.
What made you join the guerrilla shrew warfare task force?
She laughs at that. Oh well, my mother was one of the navigators for the Grosim, and I just guess I kind of got into the family business.
Very
Besides,
interesting.
it beats staying in one place and, I don't know, farming, I suppose. Not really cut out for that sort of life. Gets to do a lot of exploring, travelling with the Grosim.
True. Well, thank you for sheltering us for the evening.
Not a problem, mate. You tried out them log boats, yeah? I look forward to seeing a mole and an edge pig having to go at one of them.
Well, I am not a gifted swimmer, but I have been on boats before, I think.
Well, if you operate a boat right, there shouldn't be a need for swimming. That tends to imply poor boatmanship, really.
Good point. Good point.
I mean, at one point we definitely all were on a boat because we woke up shipwrecked. So.
Well, that implies poor boatmanship in the highest order if you were shipwrecked. So
Yeah,
none of you were operating a
example.
boat at the time.
Yes.
Are we still on our way to Moscow?
Moscow? I don't think I've heard of.
Isn't that where we're going, Moscow? Where are we going? My
We're
notes say
going to
Moscow.
Redwall.
What? My notes say
We're
red to
in
Moscow.
Mossflower. We're in Mossflower.
We're in
Oh.
Mossflower
That might
This
be
is
Wood.
what
like
you mean.
this is like the wrong building all over again.
And by the way, it was Dagmira Stone Eyes, not
Nah, I love this.
Dagger Eyes.
Dagger Eyes is great.
Empress Dagger Eyes.
Gruber has half the notes, and he is assured of them.
That's the best way to be.
That's all of my characters are very stupid but very confident, and that is just a side effect of my note taking.
It's wonderful.
Is there anything we should know about Redwall for those of us who have not been there?
Oh yeah, of course. I've only been there once, very long time ago. First thing to know is make sure you're prepared to go up a trouser size or two, because the food is something else. Also, they don't like lazy beasts up at Redwall. Everyone's got a job to do. Everyone keeps the abbey running smoothly, and I respect that. but they're sure an organised lot up there. But mostly the food thing, to be honest. The food, it's amazing. It's about one of the safest places in East Mossflower. Nothing gets past those red walls.
Well, I suppose we should be taking off now.
And as you say that, you can kind of hear Log down on the shoreline kind of calling up at you two.
I'm going to head over to the boats and just kind of wave once more to this woman.
Okay, how about Anastasia? Is she staying up with the others, or is going to head back down to the group?
Yes. If everyone else is going, I can't keep up on land. She'll find somewhere to put my bow and failing, just hand it off to someone.
There's always someone willing to take it off you. They're a very industrious lot, these shrews.
It hasn't been touched because I'm not feeling that weird ginger stuff in the porridge.
That's fair. You are about to go on a boat for maybe you haven't got a good track record with boats, so maybe it's a good thing. Yeah. So you make your way down to the shoreline, and you can see now Log has taken 2 of these sturdy little hollowed out log boats, and it's just kind of started floating them on the edge of the water, and is at the moment demonstrating to Asher how to kind of safely embark and disembark into the boat. Well, if you want to pick who you are paddling with and get in position, we can give you a little push out into the river.
I pick Holt! He can swim and is strong.
Holt's like in the boat already, just like, I'm assuming it's still very like small for him, so it's
it's like
here,
it's a bit like a adult on a tricycle, so your knees are like really drawn up. Your butt is a little bit squeezed in, but not as squeezed in as Asher's is going to be.
All right, Morgan, that means you're with me.
That's okay with me. You're also strong, I assume.
Yes. Thank you. Look, I did have a question before we left. I know, of course, we don't put a lot of weight in poetry, but there are a few things on this poem did seem to come to pass, as it were. I did notice that we were supposed to be aware of a place where dark wings find sleep, and we didn't. But the next line is about trees that choke from beneath. Do you know anything about trees that we should be afraid of?
I mean, there's a lot of trees in Mossflower. I'm not sure which specific ones this little piece of writing is referring to. I mean, trees that choke. I mean, there's a few points in the river where the kind of the trees get too thick and it kind of peters out and you get a lot of swampland, but that's usually further south. Not really sure to what that's getting at, to be honest.
That's fine, just curious if you
Again,
knew.
I wouldn't worry too much. It's only someone's bit of poetry.
Right. Well, look, we thank you again for us. I will say that we would be something you can do. Definitely, priorities are priorities. Go south and gather your folk and your families. But Redwall could certainly use fine folk like you standing in her defense.
Roll a persuasion check. If anyone would like to help, they can.
Yes, please.
Okay, what is your persuasion, please. Anastasia?
My persuasion is 5, and I have charm. I also have seduce.
Okay, so you can add a flat +3 to the result of Asher's roll.
Yeah, because all I have is intimidate. Hey, that's not bad.
That's a pretty good roll. Look thinks about this for a few moments. And kind of you see his little paw tapping as he's kind of running through. Your cogs are whirring. Says, I tell you what. We make it south. and our folk are safe and we can get them out of there, if Redwall can offer them protection, if we can have our partners and little ones and our old ones safe inside those walls, then of course we would defend it to the death.
To the question, I think Redwall is always there to protect those who need it, and that's why it needs protection the most.
He smiles. I agree with you there, lad. I do. Well, I wish you luck on your endeavour, but before we go, let's just see that you are up to travelling by water first. And the way we're going to do this is he pushes each of the two boats, well, he pushes one and another of the shrews pushes the other, and you kind of drift out into the river. And you know that you have been told that you'll be travelling against the current. So whoever is on the oars is going to make an athletics check.
I assume it's Holt and Asher.
I was going to say, if not, I'm just using my
If I had to make an assumption.
Oh, Gruber doesn't want to paddle with his little arms?
Left, right. No, if anything, Holt is like scooping the water either side.
So there'll be one person on athletics, and then the other will be doing survival navigation rolls, just to make sure you stay on target.
Okay, I'm going to roll for athletics.
Could we maybe tie the boats together?
No, we're boat A, you guys are boat 1, okay?
Oh my gosh! How do I manage?
We're going really fast,
rolls?
we're in the wrong direction.
I'm too excited. I'm in the water.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, so
we're just doing very fast circles. We're doing very fast circles, and all the shrews are here like, what are they doing?
Holt and Anastasia are indeed going at quite a pace, but they're doing a bit of an arc, and they're about to kind of bump nose on the bank again.
Hello!
Whereas in the other boat, going at about half the speed, maybe it's kind of getting used to these kind of paddles that were made for shrews in badger paws are maybe a bit of a challenge, but dead on target, perfect, straight as an arrow.
He hasn't dropped his shield yet.
Yeah, you're trying to like hold your shield up Captain America style whilst you're paddling, and it's just not compatible. Log he's got kind of a paw in front of his muzzle, and you can see he's trying to stifle a laugh. It's well, I'm sure you'll pick it up with a bit of practice. It's not even a shrew jumps straight into a logboat for the first time and gets it right. And you can see that a lot of the other shrews straight up aren't even trying to hide their chuckles.
Holt, just follow Gruber.
I'm trying. I'm normally swimming in the water.
The problem is for Holt, it's a bit like, when you play a video game and you've got a quest and an NPC is leading you somewhere, but they're walking slightly slower than you can, and you keep kind of getting ahead, and then having to drift with the current. That's a bit like
the oars just to like every once in a while poke us in the right direction.
Yeah, just jab at the side of the road. If it keeps going, I think Holt will get out and he'll go to the back of the boat and just stop swim pushing it.
Yeah, I'll say, but obviously because you are an otter, it'll be the same athletics check without any extra difficulty. So if you prefer, you can do that, and because you're more naturally doing this, it'll mean that...
Oh my god!
However, I'll say because you're doing this and are kind of adding your aid navigationally, it means that Lady Anastasia can add an extra dice to
I also have 2 speciality in it, so can I add 2 extra dice to just change out?
What I'm going to say is that 2 dice in this case is essentially Lady Anastasia can use those for the navigation.
Okay.
as you're kind of shouting out all these random facts about
Left.
river travel.
You're up to the left. Like, it's
That's a tree!
It's a tree. That's the bank.
And this time it seems to be going a little bit smoother, as you slowly, not due to the fact that you're going slowly, but you have to keep course correcting, make your way upriver. And the shrews kind of wave you off, and you can see them dismantling the last of their camp as you go. And you kind of hear a few calls of "good luck" and "bring us back a pastry from Redwall" as you head upriver. And that's more or less what you find yourself doing for the next few hours, paddling somewhat functionally upstream along the River Moss, which meanders through the heart of Mossflower Wood, and you're definitely making better progress than you would have done on foot, without a doubt. And as we progress towards late morning, kind of noon, midday, could I have another, I guess, boating check from both parties? So that's a navigation check from one and a athletics check from the other, with Anastasia having 2 extra bonus dice thanks to Holt's knowledge.
I'd like to think as well that every once in a while I go to the back of the boat and I just sort of drop a bit of food down.
Go. Like a little pat on the head and off we go. I got this.
Can I use strength to replace 2 of those die, please?
You can.
Yes, thank you. You're a generous GM. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you as you're paddling, you kind of Asher, you're feeling a bit frustrated as you try and do it like the technique that the shrews show you. So you just start doing their like brawn rowing, just like almost dragging the boat through the water, rather than being particularly energy efficient. This tires you out a bit quicker, but you're making better progress as you just put raw power into your rowing. As for the rest of you, you're staying on course now, a lot better than you were to start with. It seems you've definitely improved with a little bit of practice throughout the morning. However, you do feel quite hungry as afternoon looms ahead of you, and you haven't really eaten since breakfast. Holt, especially with your swimming that you haven't really stopped doing for quite some time, you're very hungry.
Yeah,
you know, to eat without drifting with the current, you'll probably need to pull into a nearby bank.
Yeah, he's paddling and you can feel the boat lagging a little bit, and it's just like the feet get sloppier as he goes. His tail is not quite as smooth in the water, and he sort of like puts his arms, like his shoulders, inside the boat, and he's like, I mean, could we stop at any point for something to eat, mate? I'm just getting a little bit tired back here, you know. I need to refuel.
The outboard motor has started going foot.
Does stopping entail going up on a bank and disembarking the boats, or just stopping rowing and eating in the boats?
So if you stop in the middle of the water, this river is probably flowing too swiftly because you'll end up going back the way you came with the current. The most efficient way to do it would be to just row to the nearest bank and haul out for a little bit.
It's only mid-afternoon.
Yeah. So it's up to you. If you feel like you would be able to keep going, that's fine. I know myself that Holt is a second breakfast kind of hobbit, so Holt is pretty hungry at this point. But if you think Gruber can keep it down.
What if we sleep during the day and then row at night?
This is too real for me right now in these time zones.
Would you be okay navigating at night?
It's more difficult for me to navigate. I mean, I'm not great in the daytime. If I can't see anything, I'm going to be pretty bad.
We have torches, though, right? Do we have torches?
Yeah, you have torches.
Think about it. The forest is very dangerous at night. Many things that eat other little creatures come out at night. And
you're not selling your point.
that's why we shouldn't be sleeping at night, because we're most vulnerable when sleeping. When we were attacked by the rooks, it's because we were sleeping.
Okay. He has the
So
point.
if we row at night, we will be aware during the most dangerous time.
I don't know. I'm already exhausted. This is terrible. I have blisters on my paws. Holt, if you
That's
want
my
to
point. Sleep now, row at night. Also, the waters are less swift at night. Everyone knows that.
I love how much Holt is going to believe Gruber, even though he's the water. He's like, oh, okay, because he never swims at night.
Yeah,
but he's
all
just sat there like eating this. Like, I mean, I'll go with whatever you all think's best. I'm not exactly the smartest when it comes to plans. I can swim great, apparently. But I don't mind.
It's up to you. What does the party wish to do?
Let's beach at the very least, and we can talk about this on land, because we're going to stop regardless.
All right, Gruber, you do see that there is a sandy bank coming up ahead on your right. That'd be fairly
Land
easy.
ho!
Yeah, I think Holt's still sort of out of the boat, but will start dragging both of them if he can up onto the shore, or at least guide
it's
the
pretty
other one
easy for you. It's a fairly gentle sandy bank as you kind of just beach both of the dugout boats there. And you can it's turned into actually quite a pleasant sunny day. The river is one of the few places where you can get proper direct sunlight without it being filtered through the leaves. So it's been quite pleasantly warming for those who aren't doing strenuous exercise. Which is kind of everyone apart from Asher probably enjoyed the sun today. Sweating away with his armor and the oars as he was. But you were able to kind of sit around on the sand and break out some rations.
Yeah, Holt dives like right in and starts dishing it out for everyone as well, but it is very much eating.
Asher's just trying to like cool his paws and like the river a little bit. He's got blisters in places he hasn't had them before. Badger America doesn't do boats.
The shirt, I've just noticed the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on purpose.
So
Before we get too comfortable, I just kind of want to scout the area just around us to see if I see anything obviously dangerous.
Okay, do a awareness check for me, please. Okay, you're kind of looking around, kind of your eyes narrowed, you go full survival mode. This place seems to be fairly deserted, at least there are no other travelers around here. The trees are getting progressively thicker the deeper you grow into Mossflower, and this is something you've all started to notice throughout the day. And the actual trees themselves becoming almost more verdant. It's incredibly like fertile, rich woods around here. There are deciduous trees. You see like oak trees. There's oak, there's ash, there's beech, there's like all these different species and all of the other plants that grow in tandem and harmony with these trees. Probably so many types of herbs and things growing that you wouldn't even know the names of. And it does mean that it would provide very good cover for anything that was trying to sneak up on you. However, as you kind of pick up a discarded stick and maybe like prod some bushes and beat around a bit, doesn't seem to be anyone here.
We're safe for now.
You know, I was actually just thinking about that. I was looking at the map, and there's a whole line on there about well, aside from the trees that are going to choke and kill us, there's a friend we might find armed with metal teeth, whatever that might mean. So we should be looking out for someone with iron chompers, maybe?
What, like proper metal teeth? Like,
I don't know. It's a poem. I'm assuming it's probably a metaphor for something.
Maybe he wears like a cool helmet and it's got like jagged.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be really cool.
Holt looks physically worried just as he's now like lowering whatever he's eating and just he's not perceptive and he knows it, so he's like looking around, just slightly more nervous. So do we want to keep moving, or are we going to wait till dark and then keep moving, or what are we going to do?
We can wait till dark. I am going
Let's
to
give it a shot.
because I can't see anything.
I do have excellent night vision.
It's great, but I won't be able to see you. I don't.
You'll be able to see the torch that I'll put in the back of the boat.
Yeah, the torch.
We'll attach the boats, right? Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, you do have some rope between you in your kind of survival gear.
Yeah, like Holt goes down there and starts tying now whilst it's still daylight to make sure they're fully secure to each other. You know, just in case.
I think it's worth a shot.
You know, I'm all momentum and no direction, so it's quite handy.
I'm all just looking in the right direction.
Okay, and he sort of just like flumps back onto this bank. He's not going to sleep straight away, but he does like flop back, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna close my eyes for not long, a little bit, and then yeah, and he's saying this and he's talking, but his eyes are closing as he's actually very tired as he gradually goes to sleep. He's got a full belly and he's been paddling the entire day, so
You will see as Holt just kind of drifts off in the lazy afternoon heat.
I'll take first watch.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
thank you,
tired
Peter.
either. I didn't really do anything, so I
Well,
to stay up as well.
I'm going to sleep.
Yep.
And I think Asher normally like leans up against a tree when he sleeps, but that line in the poem is still giving him second guess. So he's going to try to like maybe prop up the shield behind his head and use that as a very uncomfortable pillow.
Holt
Yeah,
is snoring.
Yeah, it's not that comfortable, and Holt is also snoring, and it's like the middle of the afternoon, so the heat is a little bit like distracting, but you've also been paddling hard, so you would drift off after a little while. Lady Anastasia?
Oh, I'm going to be keeping watch as well.
Okay.
I've got my sword out. I'm like, yeah. I'm practicing.
Okay. As the two of you are keeping an eye out, could you both roll awareness checks for me? Okay. You keep your eyes peeled over the river and the forest behind you. Maybe you're kind of sat not exactly back to back because that would impale Gruber, but kind of back to back as you watch different parts to make sure you don't leave any bit of the forest and river around you unwatched. And it seems as if nothing pays you any heed throughout the hours that you keep watch. Do the two of you plan to get some rest before you start moving again?
If I'm in the boat that's being tied to the one that can see, I can probably have a sleep in the boat.
It's true. It's good logic. What about Gruber?
Yeah, I think at some point I'm gonna want to rest, especially because I'll be responsible for 2 boats making it to safety in the dark.
I
Okay,
can't
so
continue the watch alone.
So, resolutely, Lady Anastasia continues her watch as Gruber settles down. And Gruber, as you settle down to rest, could you roll a will check for me? Gruber, as you sleep, you feel maybe it's the heat of the afternoon, and again, moles usually when it's hot. That's another kind of good point about having access to the underground. It's cool under there. It's dark, and sleeping in bright and heat like this maybe isn't what you're used to. So as you're kind of sleeping, you feel your mind starts to drift. And you start to dream. And you dream of a place that you feel like it feels like it's home. You're pretty sure it's home. It's got this feeling of safety and security attached to it. But also, as well as that, there is this sense of being tied down, as if you're not being your best self here. It's not everything that you want from your life. And as you have this sensation, you see a very, very, very small mole. More round, just a round, velvety little dollop than anything else, with a little snout and big paws. You're sitting on the floor, and you are surrounded by other tiny youngsters of all different creatures. You see little tiny hedgehogs, there are little mice, a couple of squirrels, and you are all sitting on this flagstone floor, and there is a roaring hearth on your left, and you are all looking up at an elderly mouse who is sat in a rocking chair near the fire, and they are reading from a book to all of you Dibbons, stories of great adventure and peril and kind of heroic bravery. And you remember this feeling of just being truly inspired and this fierce determination that one day that will be you. And then the dream shifts, and you seem a little older, and you are being disciplined by another mouse, and they are pointing to what looks to be a sword. The kind of sword that's made by a child who finds some pieces of wood and ties them together with some twine, which seems to have been dragged out from under a small bed and put on the bed. And this mouse is just kind of clucking and tutting at you and kind of shaking her head. And you're a little bit sullen, kind of a little bit answering back. And when she takes this little wooden homemade sword away from you, you just turn and you run from the room. And you can remember that upset, that frustration, and that kind of need to feel that adventure, as the dream kind of slowly fades away again, and you kind of drift back into dreamless sleep. Meanwhile, could Lady Anastasia roll another awareness check for me?
Oh, yes. 3. Oh, I have notice as well, so I can...
Yes, you do.
Forgot that last time.
Okay, that's enough. You don't see anything particular as the afternoon wears on and the shadows start to lengthen. Maybe once or twice you think you see the leaves shift in a way that maybe it wasn't just the wind, but you're not entirely sure. Nothing seems to follow up.
I see no glint of metal teeth.
No, you see no glint of anything, just the depths of the forest that grow darker as time passes.
I'm pretty good at this. If only there was someone to see how good I am.
And as you're thinking that, the last light in the sky is starting to dwindle. You can tell it was probably a beautiful sunset based on the orangey red of the light that's been coming through the trees for the last hour. But now that is more or less faded into purple, and you think that perhaps it's time you woke up your companions.
I shall go do that.
Okay. How do you wake them up?
I'm weary of Holt's limbs, and I don't want to, I don't get like thwacked across the forest. So I get a stick. I'm just gonna poke him from a distance.
Yeah, he's just like, He will gradually just be like, I'm up. Sort of sit bolt upright, and it was good to move because his limbs do just sort of spread out very, very quickly before he slouches and calms down again and sort of like wrinkles his nose and his whiskers, and he's like,
Sunset. Sunsetting, it's time to go.
Oh, okay, let's do this. And he sort of like waddles down, half asleep, very much like half asleep, waddles down to the boats. And he doesn't get in the boat, he straight away gets in the water, just sort of.
You just see his nose and some bubbles.
Yeah, just
Asha. Wake up.
Enemies.
No.
Oh,
Boats.
sorry. I was getting used to the fact that we wake up to things attacking us.
Well, I'm very good at the watching, and so nothing came along. That's how it works. When you're good
Thanks
at
to you.
watching, there's nothing to watch.
I feel a little less good about my watching now. Going to go to the boats.
Holt's in the water. He's ready to go.
you
is
just see
it
the
sleep
top
again?
of this otter's head as he's lying in there to try and wake himself up a bit.
I think as Asher's walking along, he's just going to pick up Gruber.
Yeah.
Just not even trying to wake him up, but Gruber will just wake up on the way to the boat. We're going to the boats, little one.
As I wake up, I think I'm a little like disoriented, and I kind of like flail a little bit and then realize what's happening and kind of relax into the carry.
Yeah, he holds Gruber out just in case the murder knife comes out, the secret murder knife.
Is it like when you hold a small dog above the water and they start to paddle without?
Yeah, just
like...
kick it a little bit.
All right, so you all establish yourself in your boats for the evening. I assume that Asher and Gruber's boat is going first. And you put up the torch at the back of the boat just so that Anastasia can see a little bit better. Obviously, Anastasia has also said that they might sleep en route, which is also fair.
Yes.
As you make ready to set off, and as you do so, could I have so Holt, if you are kind of in the water and pushing, are you instead pushing the boat in front as well to kind of help with Asher's?
Yeah, actually, yeah, probably
Makes a bit more sense.
would be, yeah.
All right, in that case, what is your athletics?
7.
Awesome. And so in that case, Asher, you can add +3 to your athletics check. And that's +3 to the end total, not dice.
Can I actually define something a little bit about our boat? Because especially since we have a torch in the back, I think he's also going to. So I'm imagining Asher's in the back, paddling from the back, just to get more momentum, and then he's going to actually kind of wedge his shield almost upright towards the front to kind of give like Gruber something to hide behind, just in case.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So almost like a masthead, but you know, secured.
These boats are very simple. It's literally just a large log of hardwood that's just been scooped out, essentially.
Okay. Okay, so that is 17.
Fantastic. And you start making good progress. Gruber, could you roll the survival navigation check for me? Wow. You are going perfectly in the right direction. And you are also making good pace as the kind of darkness is swallowing up the forest around you, but you are on the river, you're safe. And you continue in this way for a little while. As you're going, could Holt please make an awareness check?
That's actually good for Holt.
Yeah, that's very good. Holt, as you're going, you occasionally have your head kind of dip beneath the surface, just have that cool water on your face. And one of these times, you notice a very, very large silhouette beneath you in the river, slowly meandering closer.
When you say silhouette, does it look otter-shaped, or does this look definitely not otter-shaped?
It looks fish-shaped, but whatever fish this shape belongs to is huge.
Okay.
Is this large for like Holt, or is this Holt size large?
This is a some kind of creature that is at least 3 times as long as Holt. And you would know, Holt, with your knowledge of the river, that there are some species of predatory fish that hunt in the river moss.
Yeah, Holt is slowly, if he can, well, more subtly than anything, trying to get into the boat. I don't know how subtle he can be.
Okay, roll us your favorite roll.
Yay, stealth! Come on. Oh, if I get in that one, I'm going to be so proud of myself. Oh,
okay.
I mean, I know it's not great, but
So the rest of you,
for me,
the rest of you see as Holt slips through the kind of water tension of this river and just kind of slides almost serpent-like into the back boat, just like nopes out of the water.
And I'm like, okay,
Sleep.
Mates, we got a bit of a problem. There's a pretty big fish underneath us right now. And we're like perfect bite size. So if we can move as quietly and steadily as possible, it would be pretty good. But maybe if you're all ready to...
Could you make either a survival or a nature check? And I'll let anyone can do this. But because you're not river folk, it would be at a 1 dice penalty.
Oh my.
It's a fish. It's a fish, you know. That's that much.
That's a big damn fish.
Unless it was actually a bird underwater.
I want to roll one of my advantages to replace that one.
Nice, go for it.
Well...
Like,
it's a fish. It's a fish.
So, Asher, you don't really know what this could be. You don't really know anything about river fish, even if you maybe used to read about sea monsters and beasties that live in the sea.
I was going to say, he had that one moment of realization when they were in the enemy camp and there was that skin.
Yeah, you
thing.
know what like sharks are, but not obviously not by name, but you don't know anything about river predators as such.
He's going to assume it's a shark.
It's a shark.
Oh my gosh, Redwall Jaws.
Gruber, on the other hand, maybe, again, your memories are still coming back. Yours aren't as complete as Ash's. None of the rest of yours are. However, maybe, and the dream you had the last night came back to you. You definitely love stories of danger and adventure, and you probably have read about dangers that inhabit the woodlands, which might slightly explain your suspicious demeanor. You recall hearing of a kind of fish called pike, which can grow very, very large, and they are predatory, and they would definitely feed on creatures they find in the water. However, you will also realize, with your incredible acumen, that you are currently in boats that look just like dead wood floating in the water.
Is Holt in the boat?
Yeah, Holt has now slithered out of the water as quietly as they can, which was actually pretty stealthy for Holt, as Holt goes.
For Holt, that was the stealth check. Okay, cool. Well, I think as long as we keep all of our arms and legs inside of the moving vehicle, we should be okay.
I mean, have an oar ready, you know, just because these sorts of things, you bop them on the nose and hope for the best.
But if we stop rowing, we're gonna go back, right? It'll push us backstream.
It will. The river has slowed somewhat. It's actually a lot more slow flowing here than it was. So if you did want to wait for it to pass, you won't drift too far. You might lose maybe 10-20 minutes worth of work.
I think we should pull the oars into the boat and just wait for it to pass. I don't think it'll harm us as long as we look like wood. And luckily our boats are made out of wood, and they're also shaped like wood, and also they are wood.
Okay,
Holt just sits tight because he feels very unprotected in this boat that's far too small for him.
let's all be very, very
his,
quiet.
His staff sat upright, watching this shadow loom underneath him.
Could you all now roll, apart from Anastasia, if she's asleep, could everyone roll awareness checks for me?
Yes.
I can pretend to be asleep.
Okay, so all of you see below the boats, you do now see this silhouette as the fish kind of swims towards the surface somewhat. Perhaps it's not swimming fast, it's not swimming on the attack, but it's coming towards the boats. And Holt and also Gruber, you see a little bit more detail. You can make out through the dark waters, maybe Holt because you're used to seeing through water, and Gruber because you've got better night vision than the others. You can see this very immense shape with these great round dish-sized scales. As the fish swims upwards, you can see a very sharp, cruel-looking jaw, and the pike has this enormous underbite as the lower jaw kind of juts out, and you see countless rows of needle-sharp teeth as long as your hands just kind of poking out of this bottom lip, and these great rolling kind of spherical eyes that just bulge from the sides of the huge fish's head. And you all see now as it very gently crests the top of the river, and this enormous spined dorsal fin just breaks through the water tension as it then starts going back down into the water. And there is a moment where the side of its body brushes and bumps against the front boat, and you all just hold your breath as the boats are momentarily jostled. Anastasia, could you roll a will check for me?
Ooh.
Okay, thankfully your will is high enough. You don't suddenly wake up at this.
I am having a great sleep.
Holt's getting worried though that she might fall in if there is a knock, so he might go over to wake her up, but he'll put his hand over her mouth so that there's no loud movements or anything. Like he's holding to make sure she doesn't jump up and fall out or something like that, because this boat isn't very big. But he will sort of put a hand over her mouth and like tap her and put a finger to his lips if she wakes up.
And the other two of you see as the huge dark shape of this fish slowly and lazily meanders ahead and continues swimming onwards away from you until eventually you lose sight of it.
Yeah, Holt was like pointing for Lady Anastasia at the fish and like...
I can't see anything. I'm still on the ground of the boat.
Yeah, you got no idea what's going on.
You've just got this otter over you like...
But to the rest of you, it looks like the fish has now moved on and left.
We did it.
So you can sleep again now. And like, pushes the hedgehog down.
All right. And it seems that once again you're alone on the river.
I think Holt will very uneasily, after a while of checking, ease himself back into the water. But very, like, constantly looking around.
Make an awareness check once you slip back into the water. The great thing is, if you roll terribly or roll well, you'll still be really suspicious.
I still won't see anything. Like...
All right, well, you did roll very well. From as far as you can see, the river is clear.
Yeah, then he eases himself back in and starts the movement, using more of his tail than his feet this time, just to try and keep the movement as smooth as possible.
Are the rest of you kind of continuing?
I think so. Holt, do you need a melee weapon or something to fend off biters?
Oh, I got my stick, and he pulls out his staff, like, which is on the back of his What is that?
Sure. I'm just thinking a stick in the water is about as good as a stick in the water. I didn't know if you wanted like. I have a hatchet. A little bit
And he
smaller.
sort of looks and he's like, "Why would I want a hatchet?" He's never used anything like this before. He's normally used it himself.
Holt, do you have control of your tail?
And he's looking back at it as it's like weaving through, and he's like, in water, yes, mate.
What if we strapped the hatchet to your tail?
I mean, I might cause some real damage, mainly to myself, but
You do worry, Holt, it might make you a little less water dynamic.
We do have a long history of strapping hatchets to things, though.
I mean, I'm all right now. I tell you what, if I see another fish, you throw that hatchet my way. Pass that hatchet my way.
Good choice of words.
Because I cannot catch either. Whatever that, because my awareness is shocking.
Fair enough. Just keep your eyes open. We don't want to lose any pieces of you, I suppose.
Oh, I'm checking both above water and below water, and as you do that, you seem to just dunk his head under the water to have a look. Just like a regular check, not like.
Okay, and for the next leg of your journey, could we have another roll from Asher and Gruber? Remember, Asher, you'll be adding 3 to your total. Even better than last time.
He's got some practice now.
Yeah.
He's getting the rhythm of the river.
Gruber might not be here at the moment.
She would step out.
That's okay. As you kind of continue to slowly make your way through the river, it seems that you are completely alone. The forest is a lot quieter than it was during the day, but it's like instead of the day insects, there's this new kind of sounds and noises of the night, which maybe you have never really appreciated quite as much before. You don't usually travel by night, after all, and a lot of you don't even remember if you've done a lot of forest travel one way or the other. As you kind of continue on forwards, and it seems almost that it's getting darker, if anything. As you continue upriver, it's becoming shallower and wider as the river becomes a lot more sluggish and calm. Holt, you especially can feel that sometimes your large webbed footpaws or your tail brush against kind of submerged logs or just bits of detritus that have been lodged in the very silty, muddy bed of the river. And it becomes a little bit easier to fight the current because the current is now almost non-existent as you make your way upriver. And this makes it a lot easier, to be honest, to travel. The only downsides is in this part of the river, there are an awful lot of insects, and you find yourself throwing through clouds of gnats or mosquitoes or other unpleasant little creatures that swarm around you as you kind of interrupt them. And the kind of plant life around the river is also getting a lot thicker. It's getting a lot more verdant. You can't really fully appreciate it in the dark, but you can see things like huge ferns that kind of just curl over and trail their leaves in the water, and weeping willows that kind of drip with moisture throughout the evening. Gruber, now you're back. Could you roll another navigation survival check for us? Okay, yeah, Gruber's keeping you on the straight and narrow with his excellent...
We're not getting lost.
Nope, there is no lost getting here as your night vision is excellent. And in fact, it gets a little bit easier for the rest of you to see. As you continue, you find yourself paddling through an area of the river where it seems that a large kind of group of fireflies have made their way down to the river this evening, as these glimmering kind of pockets of yellowish lights just kind of blink all around you and swirl as you kind of punt yourself through this shallow river. The time passes, and this new, incredibly vibrant and verdant environment around you it doesn't press in, but it's as if the thickness of the trees and the vegetation that's now starting to knit together and overhang even the river itself is becoming thicker, and you feel a little bit more pressed in on all sides. Could everyone please make a awareness check, apart from Anastasia, who is asleep?
Are we potentially looking for a crab telling us to kiss a girl?
Yeah.
La 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 la.
No, but the forest is very much got that vibe right now.
I was gonna say there's fireflies. We're all just in a canoe.
I still see nothing. I'm just like half submerged, swimming, trying to avoid all the gnats and things like that.
Yeah.
I want to roll an advantage with another d6 that I
Okay.
have.
All right, with a 19. Gruber, you alone think you heard a rustle in the undergrowth on the bank to your right, some way, a little way behind you. But when you look and strain your ears, it seems to be gone.
I think I heard something, but I don't see anything.
What did you hear? Where did you hear it?
I
In the
heard
water?
rustling in the bush over there.
Like, and he sort of not lets go of the boat, but he sort of like holds on with one hand and looks over where it was pointed, like whether he's going to drift over there or not.
Again, none of you seem to see or hear anything now. It seems to have gone quiet.
Gruber, maybe just keep an ear and an eye on the shore. Let us know if you see anything else.
Will do.
Okay, as you continue forward, the river seems ahead of you to split into a fork. Each tributary doesn't seem to veer wildly off your path. They both seem to continue in vaguely the correct direction, but it does split into two parts.
Which way, mates? I didn't.
Which way were we traveling on the river? Which direction, I mean?
You're going eastwards and you're going against the flow.
And the split, which direction would each of the split take us?
One of them goes kind of true east and one goes ever so slightly northeast.
We need to go east, right?
Is there anything on the map that would show a fork in the river that might better direct us?
The map, I didn't really go into, it didn't kind of zoom in to that level of detail.
Okay.
Because it's just kind of had a big river tributary, which when you looked at the map before, you don't think the river that's marked on the map, which there is only one river marked on the map, the very wide, large River Moss. You think that this might be either one that kind of flows back into the main river or maybe has already come away from it. But the one that you've been traveling on since you met the shrews seems to be a slightly smaller, a more minor river that might not necessarily have been marked on this very kind of zoomed out map.
Well, Gruber, you've been navigating us successfully so far. Do you have an opinion?
When the river branches, is one of them less? I think east. I think the branch that takes us true east. Can I roll like a lore check to see if I would remember?
Yeah, you can. I don't see why not. If we roll a lore check. Okay, so you do recall that just from when you were planning this kind of journey, not even from kind of memories further back, that true east was the correct direction of Redwall, like the quickest way.
Okay, yeah. We should go true east, like the poem says, east to Redwall against the flow of the river. Never said anything about northeast, or north, or west, or northwest, or south, or southeast, or southwest.
It with me, mate, and he's gonna start like steering the boat slightly in the right direction.
Okay, make one more as you kind of follow down this, and this would be the right hand kind of fork. As you follow down this kind of offshoot, I would like one more athletics check from Asher and one more navigation check from Gruber. Okay, it's maybe because it's a little bit more unsure now, but your progress isn't quite as quick as it has been up to this point. This offshoot of the river is a little bit thinner than the one you were on previously. It seems maybe a little bit deeper again, as if the shallowness has started to fade a bit. Indeed, Holt, your paws and your tail aren't quite catching on logs and twigs quite as much as they were, which is nice. However, now that the river itself is slightly thinner, and the width of the river at this point is probably about 12 feet ish, about like 2 ashes wide, if that makes sense. So at this point the trees have more or less closed up over top, and you can't really see any moonlight or any stars coming through, and there's this very humid, almost like stagnant air that kind of presses in on all of you. You can all hear the occasional buzz of some kind of insect fly past, and the fireflies you've mostly left behind, so you're back in the gloom of the nighttime.
I think Holt's just like swatting every now and then if he can hear a bug too close to his ear, or he'll quickly dunk under the water, but otherwise he'll just keep pushing forward until he's told to stop.
Okay, as you make your way forward, I need, could both Asher and Gruber make awareness checks for me?
So 21.
Okay. As you are as you're making your way along the river, and Asher, you're kind of straining with the oars, just before you kind of drift into them, you both see these long dark loops of some kind of vine or something that are just hanging down out of the tree canopy above you, and they would be about kind of neck height, but you kind of spot them in time and kind of swat them to one side.
Do we pass under the canopy?
Yeah, the canopy is the trees above you have just kind of knitted together because the river is now thin enough that the canopy just rolls on overhead. You can't now see the sky.
So
Asher, were the grasping vines reaching from down below or up above?
They were hanging down, like these loops of vines were hanging down from above you.
No, I mean, sorry, in the poem, Asher.
Didn't necessarily say, it just said that they choke. Well, actually, no, it does say trees that choke and ensnare those beneath. So that sounds like they would come from above. So we swatted these out of the way. As we're passing by, Asher's going to look back. Are they doing anything?
They're just kind of
Lady Anastasia
dangling there where you left them.
Okay.
And then just as you turn your head back, you just catch and look back, and they aren't there anymore.
Right. That's not good. Holt, beware of the trees. Is
Something
Anastasia
else.
awake?
Like something else for him to be aware of. He's like, well, why? What's wrong with the trees?
Oh, I think they're trying to hang us.
Wait, what? First the fish and now the trees? What's happening?
I don't know. This is all a right proper mess.
Well, and he's sort of like ducking, even though he's not. He's in the water anyway, but he's ducking a little bit more.
And could all three of you make one more awareness check for me? Okay.
So 10. Oh, nice.
So, Gruber, you're the only one that sees this. As you are passing underneath, you're kind of looking up to survey the canopy above you. Maybe it's your keener nighttime vision, Gruber, but a moment passes and you swear that you could see dozens of bright yellow eyes reflecting your torchlight back at you as you passed underneath. And just as you see that... Oh, there's one. D6 is a tool. No, that would not have gone in your favor. So, just as you see that, out of nowhere, a sharp, kind of fairly crudely made spear just shoots out of the trees and is aiming for Asher. Now, Asher, does a 15 pass your combat defense? And if so, by how much?
It most certainly does. My combat defense is 7, so that is double, more than double.
Okay, in that case, you take 8 points of damage. However,
And I absorb 9.
you absorb 9, so you feel an immense sudden impact as as this thrown spear just bounces off of your chest plate, and it knocks the wind out of you for a second. However, yeah, exactly like that. As you now look up, you too can see these countless yellowy eyes glaring down at you. And with that, I'm going to ask everyone to roll initiative.
Heroes, assemble.
What's
Yeah.
initiative
Agility,
again?
isn't it?
Reminds me
So,
what initiative is.
in this game, initiative is rolled by doing an agility check.
That was it, yeah.
Boom. Even asleep.
Oh, and by the
That's
way,
okay.
for all of our viewers, we did make the determination that we are haphazardly a weird shadow of Avengers.
Weird Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Badger America. We have a Holt, who is somehow
I'm
both
Arrow.
Hawkeye. Yeah, you're both
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye and the Hulk.
Yeah.
All right, let me just do some rolling.
Anastasia is definitely Black Widow.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Gruber is 100% Nick Fury. Just
Yeah.
tiny, dark, and full of murder. Just
And his sunglasses.
This is true.
sunglasses.
I do have
Just
sunglasses, yeah.
skeptical of everything.
Okay, out of the 9, I think Hulk goes first because they have a higher base agility. And then Asher. Cool. So this spear has just flown out of the trees and bounced off of Asher's breastplate. This clang instantly kind of wakes you up, Anastasia. What do you do?
What happens when I'm not on watch? I stand up and I say, "You there in the trees! Make yourself known!"
Okay.
That's it. That's really all I can do. I don't.
All right, Gruber, it is now your turn.
I have bought some specialties since the last time, so I now have
Ooh.
I now have bows with my marksman specialty. So I'm going to shoot.
Okay, shoot up into the trees. Roll a marksmanship test for me.
So, okay, yes, that's damage.
And
okay.
then the bow is your bonus dice. That'll be your specialty.
Cool.
Okay, so how many of those were the bonus dice?
2.
Okay, so basically you take the you would essentially sub in the last 2 rolls for any rolls they were higher than. So the 6 can replace one of those 4s. So essentially you deal 10, 5, 21 points of damage. Sorry, what am I talking about? That's D&D. You don't. 21 is your attack to hit.
Yeah.
That is absolutely going to beat these guys' combat defense. What is your agility?
So it'd be 4d6. Is it agility?
Agility is the damage.
Number.
Yeah.
So
I believe for your
4 plus 1, so 5.
5, and because you got a great success, that is doubled. So you deal 10 immediate points of damage as you take aim and shoot towards these glowing eyes above you. Instantly, you hear this kind of sound, and a form drops from the trees in the dark and hits the water next to your boat and causes a splash, which kind of jostles the boat. In that split second, you are able to see a figure who is smaller than Holt, quite a little bit bigger than both you and Anastasia. It kind of looked like a rat, but it also kind of looked like a squirrel. It had an immensely long tail, but the whole body seemed to have been slathered in some kind of river mud and was just covered in leaves and all these other bits of camouflage. But it had these very large yellowy eyes, which are clearly very well used to seeing in the dark. However, it hits the water and sinks and doesn't come back to the surface. Next up is the enemy. So, Gruber, you drop this individual, and immediately there's like this hiss from above you, and you kind of hear the snap and twang of a bow. And what is your combat defense? Gruber, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
My
right.
combat defense is definitely less than 28.
Well, 2 of those are bonuses, so it's actually 22.
Okay, it's definitely less than 22. It's 9.
Okay, so with a 9, it's not bad enough to be really bad. Okay, you would take 8 points of damage, but you are wearing a little bit of armor, I think.
My armor absorbs 2.
Okay, so you would take 6 points of damage.
Rachel, let me ask you, because I post my shield up at the front, kind of for Gruber's benefit, is there any way he can take advantage of that?
Potentially, Gruber could kind of duck down underneath the shield on his turn. However, these arrows are coming from straight on top of you right now.
Cool.
And one of these arrows does indeed strike you, Gruber, as I say, for 6 points of damage.
That hurts a lot.
Yeah, I don't think that feels great. Meanwhile, as you're kind of preoccupied with this, and Asher, you're still reeling from this spear just clanging into your chest, Holt and Anastasia are the only ones who really see this. You can see a silhouette, a form is lowering down out of the trees, and you see this gangly rat-like shape that seems to be kind of supported by these long viney ropes that have been like tied around its midsection. And it reaches down and it grabs Lady Anastasia. And then it seems that the vine tied around its waist is pulled and it starts withdrawing back up into the trees, taking Lady Anastasia with it. So this is going to be a contested athletics strength check between you and this individual. Oh, I misrolled. Okay. Unfortunately, Lady Anastasia, you're kind of fighting and like kicking and like trying to free yourself. But you kind of feel as you're being pulled back up into the treetops, these loops of more of this vine-like ropey, whatever this material is, drop down and are kind of trussed around you. And yeah, you're kind of looking a bit like a marionette right now, but more of these ropes, kind of droop down and are drawing you upwards, and you are now almost in the canopy, being dragged up into the trees. And then next one. Okay, so that would be a 19. So that would be another 8 damage. Another kind of arrow this time clangs off of your shoulder armor, Asher. But again, you take no damage as your armor just kind of resists the weapons of these creatures. Next up is Holt.
I'm assuming Holt has seen Lady Anastasia be taken up.
Yeah.
Okay. He's going to go down into the water and try and propel himself upwards when you shoot out of the water, just to try and collide with this thing in the tree that has, and rip it out of the tree, including Lady Anastasia.
All right, yeah, this is going to be quite difficult, but by all means.
Could I please use one of my advantages as well? Okay, so I also have 2 specialities in athletics as well, so 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I get to roll 9 dice.
It's a lot of dice.
Just in case. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. So, right, yeah, you just kind of propel yourself up out of the water at breakneck speed up towards the treetops. And what is it you're actually trying to do?
He's trying to, because he's so big, he's trying to almost take them both. So he wants to get one arm like round Lady Anastasia, but he wants to rip this other one out of the tree as he's bring him down into the water because he can fight in the water.
Okay, so you successfully kind of grab hold of this pair, and you are dragging and dragging and dragging. And you can successfully dislodge the rat, and now you're really up close to it. You recognize it seems to be some kind of rat just covered in bits of forest. However, the sheer number of kind of ropes and vines that were looped then around Lady Anastasia, those are going to stay. So your choice that I'm going to give you is either you stay just clung on to this group as it's dragged up into the treetops, or you can get the rat, and both of you and this rat can plummet down back into the water.
He will try and drag them all back down into the water if that's...
All right, so for now, at the moment, you are just clung on to this kind of tussling group of yourself, Lady Anastasia, and the rat.
He's trying to make himself like a dead weight, effectively, so that
makes
he's
sense,
big.
Yeah. Cool. Asher, it is now your turn.
The spear that hit me, is that something that can be thrown back, or did it bounce off and go into the water?
You can throw it back. It will be quite hard and a weapon to throw, as these things kind of have half cover in the trees.
Sure.
And the one that's kind of currently grappled by Holt is more or less covered by Holt, so you risk hitting your companions.
Absolutely. Okay, I think because Asher's been hit a couple of times but is more or less unscathed, he's just going to keep rowing as fast as he can and try to just get the group out of that area.
Okay, so as you're rowing, the pair of boats are moving further on ahead. The Anastasia and Holt, dangling from the vines, are getting left behind because they are hanging in space.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
And that is what happens. And we're back up to top of the round. Anastasia, it is now your turn. You have been most rudely awakened.
Yes, voice in the air, now Holt is right there. I would like to attempt, in a very ladylike fashion, to headbutt the rat.
Okay, you can do that. Roll an unarmed attack, which will be fighting check.
I can fight. No, I can't really.
If you have any specialities for unarmed.
No. Short
All right,
blade.
so you try and headbutt this rat.
Advantage.
Oh, of course you may. Yes, you can roll
Yeah.
roll one more dice and basically use it like a free bonus die.
Get rid of that
that's-
one.
That is what you needed. You can collide your forehead with this rat. What is your athletics?
It's like Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
What is my athletics for?
4. Okay, so unarmed is usually athletics -2.
Oh, 2.
2. So you kind of smack your forehead forwards and crack it against this rat's skull. It hurts. This rat has a pretty thick head, and you do seem to have succeeded in hurting it.
Well, maybe I've just distracted it enough that Hulk can do whatever he wanted to do.
Gruber, it is now your turn.
Are both Anastasia and Holt still wrapped up?
Anastasia's very wrapped up. The rat is also quite wrapped up. Holt isn't wrapped up. Holt is kind of clinging on to the pair of them, trying to drag them back down.
Okay. I want to shoot at the vines that are holding up
Okay.
the duo.
All right. So this is going to be quite a difficult shot because it's obviously quite a small target, but...
Can I use my auto success?
Yeah, sure you can.
Okay, I use my auto success. My
Okay.
auto suck, as it says in my notes.
All right, so in that case, how much damage? You said you usually deal 4. Was it 5?
5.
5. Cool. You take aim, carefully let loose the arrow, and you watch it kind of sail through the air and sever. You probably sever about half the vines. You can actually, I'll give you a choice. You can either sever the extra vines that are now wrapped around Anastasia, or you can sever the vines attaching the rat up to the trees above.
I will sever the vines around Anastasia, and I will hope that Holt can save both of them in the water.
All right, so now Anastasia is only attached via rat, the same way that Holt is. And it is now the rat's turn as you're getting closer to the canopy now, Holt and Anastasia. Close enough that Holt, you just about have time to see before it hits you, or might hit you. Another one of these mud plastered rats just kind of hangs almost upside down and like a contortionist kind of curls round. And you see now, you're kind of seeing these things closer. These rats have kind of a small mammal and bird and lizard skulls kind of strapped all over them, and they look wild. And it tries to stab at you with a spear to try and like pry you off of it and its companion. Okay, so that is a 14. What is your combat defense, Holt?
My combat defense is a 10.
Okay, so let me just check my notes. Right, so you would take 8 damage from that. However, I believe you soak some of that?
Yes. I'm just trying to work out. I think I absorb 8.
I don't think so, because you need to be in plate mail.
I've got the. Hang on.
I feel like yours was 3. It was fairly...
It's 3. It's
yeah.
3. It's 2. Yeah. It's 3. I've got 3.
Cool. In that case, you absorb 3 of those 8 points of damage and take 5 instead.
Yeah.
Okay. And then second one, you kind of hear this rustling and like chittering above you, the sound of something moving over closer to you, and then there's almost like this thick gnarled staff comes poking through the canopy and tries to like kind of basically just prod and like shove you off of the rat and Anastasia. And this is going to be a contested fighting check. Just as you're trying to like cling on and avoid being shoved by this thing.
Is this me rolling? Sorry.
Yeah, this is
it doesn't
you
seem
rolling.
to be. I don't know why my thing's not going. Athletics, yes.
Fighting check.
Fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Let's try that again. Ah, that might be why. For some reason, my roll 20 is not loading.
Oh no.
I don't know.
How many
why.
do you have in fighting? I can roll for you.
I have 5 in fighting, please, and 2 specialities.
Okay, so I'll roll the speciality dice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Ah!
What's the specialty in?
That is a good question. I think it's just it's like when I use my fists and things like that.
Okay, so this is unarmed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So that would probably work. So you would basically with that just be replacing that 1. So that's going to go up by 4, so 22. Oh my goodness, that's close. Okay, so it beats you by 1 point, 23 to 22. Unfortunately, as
Can I gift an advantage?
No, not you can't kind of do it twice at this point.
All right,
sadly.
no, that's fine. Yeah.
So you feel the staff that just kind of presses in between you and lodges you off, and then all of a sudden you haven't got your grip. You claw to try and grab onto something, and you're falling back down into the water. And with that, the final rat that's left in the trees, you kind of hear this frenzy of movement as they're clearly very frightened of this huge otter that they almost had up in the trees with them. And you just hear this flurry of movement as it uses its turn rather than attacking to haul the rat that's currently got Anastasia in its grip back up into the canopy. And you see the rat and the rat and your hedgehog companion disappear into the darkness of the canopy. It is now Holt's turn again. You are currently falling backwards into the water, and you splash and hit the water at the start of your turn.
So is Lady Anastasia in the water as well now?
No. She was dragged up. She has now disappeared into the canopy.
Oh, he's going to try climb the tree then. He's going to go straight up into the tree.
So if you're using both your movement to climb up into the tree, you can try and get into the canopy.
Mm-hmm.
That will be an athletics check if you have climbing as a specialty, but
I don't know. I don't.
It's good to be a little odd for an otter.
Yeah. He's just trying to scramble up into this tree as he sees
Anastasia
disappear.
Yeah, that's a very good check. So you can use your full movement. You basically rocket your way through the water to the side of the bank, and then you scramble up these very algae-covered, slimy trees, but it doesn't deter you. Your little tiny claws on the end of your webbed paws just dig in, and you pull yourself up through the tree, up until you are as high up as the canopy. And at this point, the branches are just about strong enough to support the weight of a fully grown otter. And now you can see that there were 3 rats in the trees, not including the one that was dropped and fell into the water. And they've just finished pulling their companion and Lady Anastasia back up into the trees with them.
Yeah,
and it looks like they're getting ready to run.
He's not elegant in any way when he's going up there. It's a proper scramble, and he's just like, hey, like he's shouting the entire way up there.
Yeah, and let's say the last thing you notice is it does look like they are cutting their losses. Like you hear this chittering and this kind of confused sound, and it looks like they are they were terrified of you, and they're confused as to why none of their attacks seem to be hurting the big badger. And it looks like they're about to cut their losses and run. Asher, it is now your turn.
Okay, so just to get the kind of field, Lady Anastasia's up in the trees. They're about to run off with her. Holt's up there as well, but a little further away. Okay, yeah, I think he's definitely not going to leave everybody behind. I think he's just going to try and chuck the spear and see if he can hit the nasty cannibal squirrel that has Anastasia.
Okay, so you can't clearly see them, so there is a chance. So what I'm going to say is you are going to be doing this at a -1. I'm going to be generous and say this is -1 to the result rather than -1 dice, because it is also dark. So if you roll so you're throwing the spear back. This will be, this will be fighting, but you'd only get a specialty if you had the thrown specialty. So
And
it's
I
just oh, you do.
I do. I throw 1.
Good investment.
Okay. That is.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely gonna hit. Holt, and you and Anastasia both see this. There is a whistling sound before, with a sudden kind of widening of the eyes, a thin spear just slays the rat that kind of had its paws kind of holding on to Anastasia, and it just drops back from its perch into the water with like this big spunk. However, there are still 3 rats remaining in the tree surrounding Anastasia, and it is your turn. And they are all just they're surrounding you.
Yeah, Holt is probably in a mild panic mode. He's just crawled up this tree, and he's just going to start picking them up and throwing them out the tree into the water.
Okay, I'm afraid you go after the rats.
Mm-hmm.
It is Anastasia first, though.
I'm not going to be able to fight 3. I'm not a fighter, as it were. What are you after?
Roll a... Now, do you have a stat for linguistics?
No.
Or did we get rid of that?
I have a language.
Language, it might be language.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting confused with the World of Darkness. Yeah, if you roll a language check, see if you can communicate with these creatures. 9's pretty good. They seem to kind of get what you're saying vaguely. Then they kind of nod enthusiastically, and they just kind of point at you.
You want me to go with you?
That kind of seems to be what they're after.
Well, what about my friends? I point at everyone else.
They kind of start shaking their heads vigorously. And with that, it's probably about 6 seconds. So it would then be Gruber's turn.
I agree to go with them as well.
Okay.
Okay. Can I hear any of this? Can I hear Lady Anastasia talking to the rat?
You can hear Lady Anastasia talking. Obviously, you can't see them responding.
Okay. But they're still tied together?
No, none of them are tied together. There's the 3 rats in the trees. The one that was tied to Lady Anastasia has just been slain by Asher and has dropped through the canopy and kind of into the water, which you did see.
Very dramatic. Well, I'm going to ready a bolt and just say, Anastasia, what are you doing? Why are you talking to them?
Okay.
Oh my god.
So it is now the rat's turn. The rats, one of them kind of looks up at Holt and kind of motions, and the other one just shakes its head and looks very kind of afraid of Holt. And then between them, they all seem to nod. And then 2 of them kind of come either side of you, Lady Anastasia, and just grab you by the arms, and they actually start fleeing through the trees. It seems like these rats are perfectly adapted to moving through the trees. It's like they almost like Naruto run, bounce through the trees. And they're dragging you with them, Anastasia. Did you want to resist?
Nope, I will follow them. I'm sure my friends will be able to find me. I drop things on the floor as I go.
Very wise of you. And yeah, they have essentially started making off away from the river into the forest itself, further away from you. It is now Holt's turn. You saw all of this. You kind of saw the conversation. You saw two of them grab each of Anastasia's arms and just start dragging her through the trees.
Yeah, Holt is in full panic mode, so Holt is bolting after them and just trying to grab them, if you see what I mean. He hasn't got any of his weapons out or anything like that. He's literally just trying to grab them. Okay, so with your movement speed, traveling through trees, you will essentially be able to keep up with them, but you won't be able to kind of catch up and grab, if you know what I mean, because they use their full movement to run. But you are keeping pace with them. Yeah, he's just trying to tear through the trees after them. Okay, and down on water level, Asher, you hear this commotion and you can hear the much louder sounds of Holt as he crashes through the trees following the fleeing rats. What do you do?
There we go, sorry. Gosh. So, did he see Anastasia get taken off?
It's more that you heard it rather than saw it. The canopy is very thick and it is still very dark because it's in the middle of the night.
Okay.
But you can kind of hear the sounds getting quieter, which does suggest where they're going and that they are trying to flee.
And he definitely can't see Holt or her anymore. I think that he is going to, bring the canoe ashore and, jump out. I assume that's 6 seconds worth of a turn.
Yeah, probably by the time you just kind of, you find one of the shores to try and beach the canoe as best as you can. And in that time, you can also have helped Gruber onto the shore as well, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. Try to at least beach one of the canoes, if not both. Try to pull them ashore so they don't get swept off in the current.
Okay, so ostensibly combat is now kind of over as we find ourselves split in two. As Asher and Gruber, you are currently on the bank. There are trees just kind of reaching up all around you. It is incredibly dark. Thankfully, Gruber, you can see quite well. You can hear the sounds of the crashing and snapping of twigs getting quieter above you. Could you both make awareness checks for me? Or survival navigation?
So 15 for me.
Okay, so you both are able to tell the direction they are going. So if you wish, you can start following.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you start making your way through the trees yourself. You aren't restricted by having to move through them. So you're essentially able to keep up with the rats fairly easily, although you're a tiny little bit of a distance behind, which might be a good thing if you don't necessarily want them to know you're on top of them. Holt. You are trying to dash through the trees. You are not quite as adept at traveling through trees as these rats seem to be, so you're not really... Actually, let's say roll a athletics check for these, but you're going to do it at a 2 dice penalty because this is absolutely not your preferred habitat, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I just withdraw dice from
the
what I normally have.
You can still use the climbing specialty if you have it. Well, actually, if you had a climbing specialty, you wouldn't need the penalty anyway. So.
Okay, 16 with the -2 dice.
Okay.
He's making a lot of noise as he goes as well because he's not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they actually rolled 16 as well because they had one of those dice as a bonus. So you're actually making fairly good progress, better than maybe you expected. You're keeping up with them. Perhaps it's because Lady Anastasia, are you kind of fighting, or are you just kind of?
I'm not fighting, but I'm definitely not graceful like they are. So they're.
So you're probably keeping them a little bit slowed down.
Yeah.
As you're being borne aloft through the trees. And it's after a little while of both of your parties are now traveling steadily through the woodland, the ground team following the sounds and the tree team, Holt following the main tree team, who doesn't necessarily know that the ground team is following. Eventually, they seem to slow the pace up a little bit. And you hear more of this kind of chittering as they speak to each other, and all of a sudden, you find yourself falling as they descend and drop through the trees. And Holt, you also see us ahead, and you also see a bit of a light kind of glowing ahead as well.
Yeah, he keeps moving. He's yelling the entire time, whether it's a mixture of he's calling out for Lady Anastasia, but he's also calling out for Gruber and Asher as well, so that he can let them know where he is, because he doesn't do trees. He's literally just trying to keep his focus on where the rats are going and keep moving.
Which you have actually done very well. Maybe it's the adrenaline coursing through your system, but you've kept up miraculously, like in a way that probably few otters would have been able to. And down on the ground, a little way behind Asher and Gruber, as you kind of try and keep up, you also see some way ahead of you a glow coming through the trees, as well as Holt's kind of yelling from a little way ahead.
I think Asher at this point has like the shield on his back. He has the sword and the hatchet out. He's running just haphazardly towards the glow. He's not even really like fully aware that Gruber is behind him. He's very much on the verge of blood wrath, which I think might come up in the near future.
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly.
So, I will set the scene. As you careen ahead, Asher, you find yourself sprinting towards a clearing. And ahead, you can just about see through the trees. Actually, both you and Gruber, if you could roll awareness checks for me.
It's 15 again.
Okay. Cool. So you both can see light, and you see what looks to be a circle of tents set up around a roaring campfire. And you also notice what looks to be several very crudely made cages that have been constructed from pieces of dead wood and river wood and just kind of lashed together. Further than that, you don't see anything yet as you kind of crash your way towards the camp, other than the fact that there are 2 more rats in this camp. They look a little bit more armored than the lightly armored rats in the trees, which in fact didn't look like they were wearing any armor at all. These are similarly plastered in kind of river mud and different shades of leaves, so they look more like kind of monstrous creatures than they do like normal rats. And they've got these incredibly long prehensile tails that they seem to have been using to help with their travel through the treetops. These 2 also have very vicious looking spears kind of on their backs, and they seem to just be attending to things around this campsite. Holt, on the other hand, as you crash forwards and drop through the trees, the same place where you saw the rats drag Lady Anastasia, and you land with a thump on the forest floor just next to this fire. And you look around, you see all of this. You also see in one of these cages, they all firstly appear to be empty apart from one. There is a fairly small but not too, like a kind of a middle-sized young-looking hedgehog, who looks about like they haven't been into their adult seasons for too long, who is kind of huddled up in the back of one of these cages, and they are wearing a green habit and just kind of looking with fear and bemusement what's going on outside. And as soon as you plummet through the trees, you find yourself drawing up to your full height and looking down at 4 spear tips that are pointed at you.
And he sort of stands a little bit more upright, sort of not backs away, but sort of probably tries to make himself look a little bit bigger. And he's like, I'm looking for Lady Anastasia.
And that seems like a very good place to call this session for this evening.
I've made an error.
I have regrets. That's perfect. Thank you so much. It's such a good session, and I love
I love your learning how to use boats.
Yeah, we suck at boats. Otherwise, thank you so much. Please, everyone, check out all the links that are coming up in chat now. You can find in the Discord, where we would love to hear about what you think of all of this. A huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Mageham Press. You can find all their links there. And also our new sponsor, The Deck of Many, where you can find all these animated spell cards, which look really awesome. So please go and check that out as well. Otherwise, keep evoking emotions, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.